There's been a big kidnapping on the West Coast. The victim is Patricia Hearst, the daughter of newspaper executive Randolph Hearst and a granddaughter of the legendary William Randolph Hearst. Richard Threlkeld reports.
Patricia Hearst is 19 and a sophomore at Berkeley. She and her fiancé were in her apartment in this building near the campus last night when a woman and two armed men burst in, beat and bound her fiancé and a neighbor, dragged Patricia down the stairs, threw her into the trunk of a car, and drove off.
I had a few scrapes and stuff, but they've washed them up and they're getting okay, and I've caught a cold, but they're giving me pills for it, and so I'm not being starved or beaten or unnecessarily frightened.
It's horrible. I was put in a closet and blindfolded.
I've heard some press reports, and so I know that Steve and all the neighbors are okay, and that no one was really hurt.
And it was hot, stuffy. There was a radio going, music all the time, turned up so that I couldn't hear anything through the door.
No way to be committed to nonviolence in the middle of the most violent society that history's ever created. I'm not committed to nonviolence in any way.
Mom, Dad, I'm okay. I'm with a combat unit that's armed with automatic weapons, and there's also a medical team here. There's no way that I will be released until they let me go. So it wouldn't do any good for somebody to come in here and try to get me out by force. These people aren't just a bunch of nuts. They've been really honest with me, but they're perfectly willing to die for what they're doing. And I want to get out of here, but the only way I'm going to is if we do it their way. And I just hope that you'll do what they say, Dad, and just do it quickly.
Greetings to the people and fellow comrade brothers and sisters. The SLA has arrested the subject for the crimes that her mother and father have by their actions committed against we the American people and the oppressed people of the world. In understanding this charge, we must first understand who the Hearsts are and who they serve and represent. Randolph A. Hearst is the corporate chairman of the fascist media empire of the ultra-right Hearst Corporation, which is one of the largest propaganda institutions of this present military dictatorship of the militarily armed corporate state that we now live under in this nation.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report from ABC News. Here is Greg Dobbs at KGO-TV in San Francisco.
We're about to hear from Mr. Hearst today in Hillsborough, California.
I think there was some mistake, and I may be to blame.
Right. Well, thank you, John. John Lester of our news scene team, still down at the Hearst home, and he will continue to be there and give us updated reports.
Today, Randolph Hearst was reported to be working on a formal statement of reply to the latest communique.
Wagner, CBS News, San Francisco.
You've been listening to communique number 8 from the Symbionese Liberation Army.
Each person with one of the following cards is to be given $70 worth of meats, vegetables, and dairy products. All people with welfare cards, Social Security pension cards, food stamp cards, disabled veteran cards, medical cards, parole or probation papers, and jail or bail release slip. The time for the distribution of this food must extend over a 4-week period. Each person with one of the listed cards can go to publicized stores and pick up their food.
The original William Randolph Hearst, an arrogant reactionary who once said that only rich people are interesting, would find this situation probably unbelievable. His own son, present head of the Hearst empire, having to rely on the help of thousands of volunteers, most of them poor people, who are trying to put through a plan which could save the life of his daughter.
The kidnappers want Randolph Hearst to buy free food
for people on welfare as part of the price for the return of his daughter.
I've said from the very beginning that I'll do anything I can in my power to get Patty back.
The food handout was bungled and plagued by violence and crooked operators, aided by a totally inadequate organization.
It was wrong, man, when they started throwing the food out the truck like we was some kind of animal, you know? That wasn't cool.
First, about the good faith gesture, there was some misunderstanding about that, and you should just do what you can. Also, I would like to emphasize that I am alive, and that I am well, and that in spite of what certain tape experts seem to think, I'm fine. Mom should get out of her black dress. That doesn't help at all.
I know she remarked that I wore a darker dress. Perhaps that's the way I feel, but I have a pretty bright dress I can put on when Patty comes home. And I just hope it'll be tomorrow on her birthday. I'll be waiting for her in a nice bright dress.
Yes, you do indeed know me. You have always known me. I'm that nigga you have hunted and feared night and day. I'm that nigga you have killed hundreds of my people in a vain hope of finding. I'm that nigga that is no longer just a hunted, robbed, and murdered. I'm the nigga that hunts you now. Yes, you know me. You know us all. You know me, I'm the wetback. You know me, I'm the gook, the broad, the servant, the spick. Yes, indeed, you know us all, and we know you, the oppressor, murderer, and robber. And you have hunted and robbed and exploited us all. Now we are the hunters that will give you no rest, and we will not compromise the freedom of our children. Death to the fascist insect that preys upon the life of the people.
Music San Francisco.
The sympathy for Patty Hearst changed to horror when she turned against her parents and everybody else and joined up with the self-styled revolutionaries. Now the voice on the tapes delivered by the kidnappers carried a different message.
I've been given the choice of 1, being released in a safe area, or 2, joining the forces of the Symbionese Liberation Army and fighting for my freedom and the freedom of all oppressed people. I have chosen to stay and fight. Dad, you said that you were concerned with my life, and you also said that you were concerned with the life and interests of all oppressed people in this country, but you are a liar in both areas. And as a member of the ruling class, I know for sure that yours and Mom's interests are never the interests of the people.
But I think what most of the people would like to know is whether we believe that Patty is a member of the SLA or not. Personally, I don't believe it. We've had her 20 years, they've had her 60 days. And I don't believe that she's going to change her philosophies that quickly or that permanently. And I'll never believe it until she talks to me or her mother or her sisters or one of her cousins.
I agree with my husband. I know my girl very well, and I know she'd never join any organization like that without being coerced, and we love her and hope she'll be home again soon.
Good afternoon, everybody. A racially mixed gang of 8 people armed with carbines and staging a commando-type raid robbed a San Francisco bank this morning. One bank official reports that the commandos, so-called, claimed that they were members of the SLA, the Symbionese Liberation Army. News Scene's Don Sanchez has been following that story all day. We've got Don with us in studio.
All right, Jim, the FBI will neither deny nor confirm right now whether indeed the people are members of the SLA. 2 white females, a white male, and a black man entered the bank shortly before 10 o'clock. 4 accomplices waited outside in a station wagon. They are not sure if they are members of the SLA, as they have claimed to be. All 8 were heavily armed with carbines. Witnesses say that they appeared to be highly disciplined, and it appeared that their moves were very well organized. As they entered, they shouted they were from the SLA, and one witness says that one of the girls said her name was Tanya. Tanya Hearst, and she repeated that.
I was positioned so that I could hold customers and bank personnel who were on the floor. My gun was loaded, and at no time did any of my comrades intentionally point their guns at me.
The pictures were of Patty Hearst with a machine gun. Patty Hearst robbing a bank. She changed from victim to fugitive.
Barricaded and forted up in there, and that heavy barrage of gunfire that's taken place, well, obviously those inside are still capable of fighting back, and there's no question about the capabilities of those outside. As I said, the SWAT unit running short on gas and so forth. Here comes another unit. I could pick up the siren, but couldn't tell. If you can hear, there was a heavy burst of gunfire.
The police have allowed us to. You can see the fire hoses spraying water on what is left of the house. I'd like to, I'm just going to move over here to a better spot here and try to describe what I see. There is still fire coming out of the house, so the mopping up operation hasn't really begun.
Right over there. Now there was a steady beat of fire.
Will make you weep.
After 104 days, emotions get rather numb, and it's also extremely difficult watching a burning inferno on television.
Greetings to the people. This is Tanya. I want to talk about the way I knew our 6 murdered comrades, because the fascist pig media has, of course, been painting a typically distorted picture of these beautiful sisters and brothers. I died in that fire on 54th Street, but out of the ashes I was reborn. I know what I have to do. Our comrades didn't die in vain. The pig lies about the advisability of surrender have only made me more determined. I renounced my class privilege when Sin and Cujo gave me the name Tanya. While I have no death wish, I have never been afraid of death. For this reason, the brainwashed duress theory of the pig Hearst has always amused me. Life is very precious to me, but I have no delusions that going to prison will keep me alive, and I would never choose to live the rest of my life surrounded by pigs like the Hearsts.
Well, Patty had disappeared for a long time. And when she was finally captured, it was right there in San Francisco, her hometown. That was stunning. You know, by then, everybody knew everything there was to know about her. I had done a million stories. I had been chasing her all over the country, looking for her. It was a story that was not comparable to anything at that time. It really was the beginning of media obsession with celebrity. So the press had set up a press room in the courthouse. We all had assigned seats. The judge took over the largest courtroom in the building. It was the ceremonial courtroom. I think the general mood in America was skepticism. They kind of believed she was guilty, but they thought because she was a rich girl, she would get off. That was the prevailing opinion, I think. And she was possibly the worst witness I have ever heard on the stand.
Because you did join them, and that became... After the 58th day...
Yeah, when they said, rob a bank or we'll kill you, I said, okay.
It was literally... it sounds simple, you're putting it like that. But was it as simple as that?
It was really that simple. But it does get more complicated because the longer they work on you and the longer they torture you and the longer you pretend that you're going along with them, the more it becomes real to you. You don't even know what you're doing anymore. I mean, it got to the point where I was told not to even think about anybody I knew. And I was so afraid to even think about my parents, my home, that for years afterward I couldn't remember what the apartment I lived in looked like, where my sisters went to school, what classes I'd been taking. I just could not remember.
So you blanked your old life out?
Yeah. This can happen so easily. You have no idea how fragile you are.
We mourn together, and the sound of gunfire becomes sweeter. Death to the fascist insect that preys upon the life of the people.